Welcome to the Wealth Podcast, Off With Your Coat, a podcast on women's health and wellness where we flip the script and ditch the surface level chatter. We need to ask the real questions. Let's get back to storytelling and back to basics to help us uncover how to set ourselves up for true health and wellness and pass it on. I'm Kat Duff, founder of GenWell, the women's health advocacy brand building wealth, the intersection of health and wellness. Some days it's me and a doctor, coat off, talking about what really matters. No fluff, no filters. Other days, it's East meets West, trading tools, not punches, to help move women's health forward. We're building generational wealth. Come with us. Coats off, let's go. Ladies, get ready because today we have Emmie Keefe of Healthy Emmie in the studio, a nutritionist and one of the OG content creators. You've probably seen her videos where she breaks down plant-based living into bite-sized, doable steps and somehow makes nutrition feel fun. We dive into de-influencing protein intake, hormone health, common nutrient deficiencies, you name it. She's built an incredible online community, coached countless clients towards healthier habits, and become a trusted source for anyone looking to eat better without the overwhelm. Emmie, we're excited to have you here. Let's dive in. Okay, Emmie of Healthy Emmie, we are so thrilled to have you on Off With Your Coat today, so welcome.
Thank you. I'm excited to chat.
I have been following you for a while, and I just love how clear your communications are to women specifically about health and nutrition. And we are just excited to dive into everything. So what we always do with our guests is we start off with a lived experience story from you, something that maybe was shocking to you or a challenge in your health journey that was a big aha moment for you in women's health.
My mom, when I was little, was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. And this was the beginning of her spiritual healing journey with how she talks to her body and looking energetically at healing. And I sent her something the other day on Instagram that there was this Harvard, I think it was a review done at Harvard, where participants in the study spoke to themselves in very kind ways with affirmations like, you are safe, you are healing. And within a few weeks, their inflammation markers dramatically reduced from just that self-talk. I sent that to my mom and she said, I swear that is how I got my body out of cancer, and that was however many, 25 years ago. And she's healthy as a horse now. But I am somebody who, I eat right, I work out, I sleep. And even still, I put maximum effort into how I talk to myself, making sure that my energy is aligned, because that, I think, is one of the most overlooked parts of health. We look at, am I eating the right things? Am I working out? Am I sleeping? But what's your attitude and energy about this, about you and your body and your ability to be healthy and heal?
Yeah. So what does that look like for you when you're talking to yourself? Because I'm thinking of, as you were saying that, I'm like, how do I talk to myself on a daily basis? I feel like sometimes I don't even have the time to assess how I'm feeling or how I can even sort of get my, fight or flight down to baseline. So I'd love to hear how you do that for yourself.
I have the luxury of not having children right now, with the exception of 2 cats. So what I do at the end of every day is I go to SOA Health and Wellness in the South End in Boston, shout out, and I sit in the sauna for 30 minutes. And I don't listen to anything when I'm in there. I just lay there and I do what I call scrubbing my brain, which is to just let all of the energy that my brain is like a sponge, everybody's is. All of the energy that has been soaked up during the day, it's like wringing out the sponge. And I literally physically feel like it as well, just sweating. And in those moments, you see what thoughts pop up and you kind of dig into the subconscious of where is my mind going? What is my baseline? What thoughts are floating below the surface that I haven't been able to address all day because I've been busy with tasks and responsibilities? And using that meditation practice to become aware of what thoughts are floating through my head subconsciously that are heavily impacting the actions that I take during the day that I probably don't notice during the day because I don't have time to step back and look into my brain and say, what's going on in here?
Right. And what some of those thoughts are actually doing to your nervous system.
100%. I think it's like 98% of our thoughts are subconscious. And
Mhm.
then I can't remember the exact percentage of what thoughts are negative, but a very staggering percent of those thoughts are negative as well. And so I
Mm.
use meditation to like, I'm using hand gestures here. It's like digging through your purse. It's like looking in your brain and saying, what thoughts are floating around here?
Right. Do you also journal or do any other sort of practices in the day to help you kind of do that
Yeah.
scrubbing?
I also have a journal that's a sketchbook, and I have all these different colored pencils. Hundreds of
I love
colored
that.
pencils. Mhm, and
Yeah.
what I do is I open up the page, and I have all my colored pencils next to me, and I try to draw a representation of what is going on in my brain that day. And it's super interesting to see, like, what colors am I gravitating toward? Was today a stressful day? Am I feeling low and I'm gravitating toward, like, more dark colors and more dreary
Mm.
colors? So that's another way I try to look at my brain from an outside perspective. Because what this all comes back to is awareness. Like, you asked the
Right.
question, like, how do you know what thoughts you're having? Stepping back and looking at your brain from like a third party point of view, recognize that you are not your thoughts and say, what subconscious thoughts am I having here that drive my actions? And I'll just give like some examples from clients that I work with. It's like,
Mhm.
um, I'll never actually succeed. I self sabotage every time. Genetically, it's just unfavorable for me. So I have a tough journey ahead of me because of my genetics. It works for other people, but it's not gonna work for me,
Mhm.
and, like, I don't trust myself, so I might be doing well now, but I'm probably gonna sabotage later on.
Yeah. Right. It's like the self-limiting thoughts that we have, and that's across the board
Mhm.
with work, family, health in particular, and then nutrition, which you're gonna dive in with us on. So how has all of that shaped what your business is now? And I love a little like sort of 30,000-foot view of how you got into nutrition and that thought process.
I started my, nutrition program in at the end of 2018, beginning of 2019, and in 2019, in working with a handful of clients, it immediately was like, "Okay, I'm not a nutritionist here, I'm a therapist." And I say that, I recognize I am not a licensed therapist,
Right, but there
but I
the
right.
psychology behind food and all of that is
Yeah, I was
really
like, "Oh
important.
my gosh, we talk a little bit about
Yeah.
the food, but 90% of these conversations are about the mindset side of things."
Mhm, mhm.
So I added on to what I offered to clients, not only nutrition coaching, but I started hiring therapists to work with my clients because it's not just about what you eat,
Yeah.
it's about what's eating you. And that's how my business sort of evolved in the sense of growing from just looking at nutrition to looking at all the other aspects of health. Something else I say is the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. So the attitude that you have around food is probably influenced by or influencing other factors in your world.
Mhm.
And the approach that I take to nutrition is let's simplify the nutrition as much as possible because it really is very simple approach to being healthy. And when we do that, we're going to clear out all of this brain space to address the root cause of this issue, which is probably like I talked about earlier, the self-talk. There's so much more that's going on here outside of the food. So if we can make the food and the nutrition as simple as possible,
Yeah.
we can do the real deep work of healing.
In our world right now is not making it simplistic. We have
No.
misinformation, we have 7,000 different types of diets that you could be on, from keto to, like, counting your macros and veganism and all of these things where I love and I know that you were a math teacher before all of this, and it is so transparent in the way that you talk to your followers on YouTube and then, in your social videos because everything is so clear and direct, and I think of my son who's in kindergarten because if you wanna I would never say dumb something down. It's really making it digestible and clear, even with the visuals that you provide, and you're like, "Oh, okay, that makes a lot of sense." So thank you for sort of bringing that clarity to people. How did you sort of conceptualize that to begin with?
I was just gonna say that I get a comment on my Instagram reels and TikToks and YouTube shorts so often that says, "Why don't they teach this in schools? Why don't they teach this in schools?" And the new age is people aren't getting their information from classrooms anymore, and this is coming from, like, an ex-teacher, so it hurts my heart to say that. People are getting their information from TikTok and from
Yeah,
Instagram, and so there have to be voices there that act like I feel like a TikTok teacher or like an Instagram teacher that is going to break this down so that somebody who's 10 years old can understand it,
right.
and somebody who's 60 years old can understand it because the 10-year-old is learning it for the first time, but the 60-year-old is probably learning it for the first time too, because we never learned these things.
Right. And frankly, clinicians as well, because they're not getting nutrition education in their background. And so, have you ever gotten a clinician like asking you a question or even just like pushing back on something you're putting out there?
Well, I wouldn't say pushing back. I was gonna say I've had, doctors, dietitians go through my program, because a lot of them
Awesome.
will say either, "I didn't have the education," or they'll say, I know all of this, but I still struggle myself." And
Hmm.
I love that humility. So I've only really had great relationships with clinicians, physicians, dietitians.
Yeah. There's such a pun intended hunger, I think, amongst doctors to have that because what is not talked about is amongst all of this chaos and like inundation of information on nutrition is it's when you simplify it, it is just a foundational element. So it doesn't have to be you don't have to put a lot of thought into it once you get into um kind of your I hate to say hamster wheel, but when you get into your routine and nutrition and things that work for you as an individual, it kind of you can coast until you get to the next life stage, for example, as women.
You can coast and you can actually live your life. Like the purpose Food is here to fuel us so that we can go out and make memories and enjoy people and excel in our careers and raise families. And so many women, their brain space is completely taken up by what should I be eating? Should I eat this or should I? So much food noise. And
So
I,
much food noise.
I am going to toot my own horn and say I love my approach to food because it's so simplistic and formulaic that I spend no energy, truly no energy thinking about what I'm going to eat because it's such a simple formula.
Yeah. So when you're working with women specifically, it's amazing that you have a formula because we're all so different and our health is so nuanced. How do you address women very like head on with their own health?
So we all have the same sort of baseline. I give clients a plate builder. And if anybody listening to this wants a plate builder, I have a free personalized plate builder calculator that we can put in the show notes, hopefully.
Cool. Yeah.
But it's based off of 5 categories of food. The 5 categories of food are vegetables, fruits, a source of protein, a source of healthy fat, and then a source of starch. When you build your plate using these components, we can slightly tweak certain elements based on whatever health ailment a certain individual is dealing with.
Hmm.
So, if somebody has blood sugar issues, then we're going to increase the protein and fiber a little bit more, and we're going to decrease the starch a little bit, but we're still using the same formula and the same calories.
Yeah.
If somebody needs to eat more often through the day because of blood sugar issues or because of their schedule, we're still going to use the same formula, but we're going to break up the size of the meals. So it's all
Yeah.
based on the same basics. It's like a capsule wardrobe of nutrition. And then you can change it based on what season it is.
I love that
I've
little.
never said that before. And
Yeah.
I'm like, that's
I
kind of
love that.
like amazing.
I'm like, I'm like, I'll buy that. I like that. Okay, so you have this plate builder for women. Can you talk about blood sugar in general? Like, why is that so important? And then, like, when it is, do you want a lot of spikes in your blood sugar or do you not?
Okay, great question. So, blood sugar is a measure of how much insulin is in your blood. Insulin is a great thing because it delivers energy to our cells. Without insulin, we die. With too much insulin, though, we run into problems because insulin is also a fat storage hormone. So, yes, insulin helps us feel energized, but too much insulin is going to encourage our body to gain fat. So, when we eat, we want to release some insulin, but we don't want to release so much insulin that the body is overloaded and you start storing fat. So when you build your plate, you want to make sure, of course, that you have carbohydrates for energy, but we don't want them to be what we call naked carbs, which is carbs without anything else. You have to
Hmm.
make sure that you have fiber there, i.e., vegetables, and a source of protein, be it plant based protein, which is what I prefer, or if it's an animal protein.
Okay. Quick note because on the protein side of things with the food noise, so much talk about protein, no talk about fiber. And what I think women would be interested to know is that if you have too much protein, animal protein in particular, that can actually convert to glucose, right?
Yeah, there's a process called gluconeogenesis where you kind of play yourself and you're like, I'm not going to eat because people have villainized carbs. They think that carbs are bad. So they're like, okay, no carbs. Let's load up on the protein. And the body's like, okay, but you give me all that protein. I'm just going to convert it into sugar. So
Right.
you're not getting the benefit that you think you are. I posted a reel on Instagram about de-influencing you about protein. And the point that I was getting across here is people have become so obsessed with protein. Like you can get a protein coffee at Starbucks now. This is insane. But people are so obsessed with protein that they are eating bars and powders and a protein coffee. And what they're not doing is focusing on micronutrients and, like you said, fiber. And so they'll say, okay, I have a banana or I can have this protein shake. Well, the banana doesn't have any protein, so I'm going
Right.
to have the protein shake. It's like, no, we totally lost the plot here.
Hmm.
And I don't want people to overemphasize the one macronutrient of protein and then lose all of the micronutrients, vitamins, minerals, and nutrients.
Right. And so in that um, process, when it's because I think protein generally converts to glucose, is that right?
There's a certain
Or
amount of protein that's
yeah.
gonna break down into amino acids and is gonna help with muscle building and muscle
Hmm.
repair, but you max out at a meal. You
Yeah.
can at about after about 30 grams, the body's gonna convert the rest into carbs.
Yeah. And so does that spike your blood sugar then? Like that's what we don't want to happen.
The spiking of the blood sugar won't happen because of an overload of protein. It'll
Okay.
happen because of an overload of carbohydrates without anything to blunt that response.
Got it.
So
Okay.
what we always come back to, like what every answer comes back to is just make sure the meal is balanced and you're
Hmm.
not just having one group from those groups that I named.
Yeah. So is there a certain timing then that you should eat food?
Yes,
Is it
there's something
eating? Yeah.
really cool, which is the sequencing of the food that you eat.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
let's say I have a baked potato, broccoli, and black beans.
Mhm.
If I eat the broccoli, then the black beans, then the baked potato, this is A plus work for my blood sugar. This is the way we want to do it. Vegetables, protein, carb. If I flip it and I eat the carb, then I eat the protein, then I eat the vegetables, my blood sugar is going to be all over the place because the vegetables and the protein sort of coat the intestines with this webbing that will help blunt that insulin response. So the sequencing matters. And also for people that have blood sugar regulation issues, you're going to do better with drip feeding, eating smaller meals more often through the day so that you're not getting huge waves of insulin.
Okay, interesting. So how do you know that? Do you have to go see a nutritionist or a dietitian to know that, or how can someone at home figure that out for themselves?
Figure out if they have blood sugar regulation issues.
Yeah.
Well, there's a spectrum here. There's on the end of the spectrum, there's diabetes, type 2 diabetes. But also, there's acute blood sugar regulation issues where you feel like you want to take a nap after a meal, you feel sluggish, you feel like you have tons of energy and then you crash. It's pretty much equivalent to your how much energy you have during the day, unrelated to sleep. So
Yeah.
I would say the most common one is people want to take a nap after lunch. There's dysregulation with blood sugar there.
Mhm. Is it also like women tend not to eat enough? I would say during the day, like, does that also affect, I imagine, your blood sugar and
Yeah, so
feeling
this
that
is
way? Yeah.
like I'm so happy you brought this up because if I had a dollar for every time somebody we had a misunderstanding about what this actually means, I'd be a jillionaire. So when people say like I don't eat enough, I women don't eat enough, usually what's happening is they don't
Mhm.
eat during the day because they're taking care of their kids, they're doing carpool, they're running around, they're going to the office, meetings, everything. They're living on coffee, living on adrenaline. Then they get to the end of the day. All of that hunger that has been bubbling below the surface all day that you couldn't feel because of caffeine and because of adrenaline hits you like a truck, and people overeat at nighttime, intentionally or unintentionally.
Right.
This is a wreck for your blood sugar. There have been studies that show, and not just blood sugar, but I'm going to bring up a study where two groups of people ate the same amount of calories, but one group had breakfast like a king, lunch like a prince, dinner like a pauper. The other group ate the majority of their calories at dinner time. And it was found that the group who ate a big breakfast, medium lunch, small dinner lost significantly more weight than the other
Yeah.
group, which is crazy.
And that's because your body is unable to digest everything at once, or they're maintaining that sort of
There's a
blood
couple of
sugar
reasons
level?
why. The
Yeah.
first reason why is because when you eat earlier in the day, your muscles, that energy is going to be put to use. The energy has to be delivered to the muscles and it's not going to get stored. This is why, like, walking after meals is so great for blood sugar regulation because you're putting that energy to use. Even like a 5 minute, 10-minute walk can have a major difference. That's the first reason, is that you're using that energy during the day. The second reason is that the huge hit that the group who ate the huge dinner, the huge hit of insulin at the end of the day. Remember, insulin's a fat storage hormone. So it's encouraging the body to, when you go to sleep, store all that energy as fat.
Yeah. That's me. So,
It's
I need to
probably
even it out.
95% of people, and the other 5% are lying. So I am very impressed that you are aware and honest about it. It's super, super common. And it's hard because I'll say this too, that in the primal days, humans spent 100% of their time hunting, gathering, foraging food. Like, that was all we did.
Right.
And now we live in a world where we can't take 10 minutes to sit down. Your mom, you know this, like, you can't even pee in peace. So it's really difficult to shuffle around your schedule to make time so that we can actually sit down and eat these meals. But I would argue, like, it's a human need. It's like
Right.
oxygen or water or shelter.
Yeah, it's that foundational, setup, especially for us as women. Like, it affects our hormones. It's affecting
Oh,
everything.
yeah.
And like I was saying earlier, it can shift at all of these different life stages. So it's something that you do have to have that consistent awareness of. Um, I did have an avocado toast with eggs this morning, so you will be happy to know.
Good job.
I haven't moved my body yet, but what are some of those other daily habits that women are getting wrong about nutrition? Like, they're coming to you and you're like, "Oh gosh, we need to right the ship."
You just reminded me of something when you talked about the importance of breakfast
Mhm.
in hormones. There is a condition called hypothalamic amenorrhea. Are you familiar with
Okay,
this
tell me
condition?
more. No, I am not. Tell me.
Okay, so there's a part of our brain called the hypothalamus,
Mhm.
and this sends the signal to our ovaries to ovulate. When our body is under stress, the hypothalamus shuts down and women will stop ovulating and they'll struggle
Mhm.
with infertility and won't have a
Mhm.
menstrual cycle. This is very common amongst women who are athletes, women with low body weight, and type A women. And it's a very common cause of infertility. It's completely reversible. But something very interesting was found in a study of women that have hypothalamic amenorrhea. Let's say that a woman eats 2,500 calories during the day. If she eats those 2,500 calories between noon and 8 p.m.,
Mhm.
she's probably going to lose her period. Versus if she
Oh,
eats those
wow.
calories from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m., she's probably going to maintain and regain her menstrual cycle. So, meal timing
Wow.
is so important, especially for women
Mhm.
Eating in the morning, I cannot emphasize enough the importance of this on your hormonal health as it relates to fertility.
So my gut is saying that you are anti-fasting.
I'm not a fan of fasting.
Okay, so tell me, kinda goes
Okay.
along with that, but let's dive in there.
Fasting is something that can be extraordinarily effective for somebody who's very sick. You can go to a fasting center and they can water fast you, and if you have something like a cancer, it can be really beneficial. For somebody that doesn't have this intense health issue, you're probably just wrecking your hormones and
Mhm.
setting yourself up for weight regain. Men do better than women. Men's hormones are more predictable than women's. Men's hormones run on a 24-hour cycle, women's hormones run on a 28-day cycle.
Mhm.
So it's
Mhm.
not as taxing on them to do this.
Among many other things.
How long do we have?
Yeah.
But for women, it's going to do what I talked about just earlier with disrupting the HPA axis, disrupting the communication between your hypothalamus and your ovaries. So if you're trying to conceive, absolutely do not engage in fasting. But
Mhm.
on top of that, it's going to dysregulate your hunger fullness hormones.
Mm.
So leptin is the hormone that makes us feel full, and ghrelin is the hormone that makes us feel hungry. And when we don't eat regularly, our ghrelin levels are going to increase and our leptin levels are going to decrease, which is why for many people, when they say, oh, I'm not going to eat until 12 p.m., and then 12 p.m. comes and they cannot stop eating, it's because of the dysregulation of those hunger fullness hormones. And I would see 9 times out of 10, intermittent fasting works for somebody for a small amount of time. And
Mhm.
then they start to engage in overeating and binge eating during their open window.
When I get in the cycle, not when I've been postpartum, because I'm fueling for breastfeeding and all of that, but when I've been sort of past that point, and then I had fasted and done fasted workouts in the past, and it's kind of worked for me, but definitely, I shouldn't have been doing that because I would notice that I would get dizzy during the day, and then I wouldn't get hungry
Mm,
really until dinner time, to your point. So that what I'm hearing is that's my hunger hormone is shut off and is like,
exactly.
"You're
It's
fine," but actually you're destroying your hormones, you're destroying your metabolism.
we were designed to live through periods of feast and famine. So
Mhm.
what that means is that when we suspect that there is a famine, AKA we're not eating all day, the body says, no problem. I know exactly what to do with this. When food does come around, I'm going to jack up those hunger cues and make you eat until the cows come home, but you're not going to feel very hungry outside your window. So I
Mhm.
have a lot of people who I'll say, like, we got to start eating in the morning. And they're like, I'm not hungry in the morning. I'm like, I believe you because you've trained your body to not be
Right, you have to
hungry.
reset.
Yeah. So the way that I suggest doing that is like if somebody starts eating at 12 p.m., let's pull it back to like 11:55. And then once you feel comfortable with that, keep pulling it back to scoot your circadian rhythms in the right way.
Mhm. And even if you're not feeling hungry, is there like a certain period of time that it takes for those hormones to start kicking back in?
The body is so quick to adapt. It's truly
Mhm.
what you feel comfortable with mentally because it
Mhm.
feels kind of weird to make that shift. With individuals who suffer from a restrictive eating disorder, i.e., anorexia, within 1 week of refeeding, their metabolism is at 75% capacity as to what it was before the sickness. So the
Wow.
body is like, we're ready to go.
Yeah.
We'll adapt. It's just what you feel comfortable with.
Yeah. Is there a psychological component that you found now that you're working with some of these mental health professionals in your practice that is sort of like subconsciously causing that?
A lot of black and white thinking, perfectionism, some OCD tendencies,
Mhm. Mhm.
and this false sense of safety in certain diets. So clients will be like, I am doing XYZ diet, so it has to work because it's XYZ diet. And they place more stock and trust in the name of a certain diet than they do themselves and their own intuition around food. And they won't be feeling well. They'll be gaining weight, they'll be overeating, and they're like, but it's the blank diet and it's worked for so many people. And that comes back to what I was talking about at the beginning, how
Yeah.
it's like, okay, so the issue here isn't about diet or food. The issue is about you not trusting yourself and your intuition. Like where'd you learn that? Where did that come from? And that's what we have to work through.
Well, we were never taught it. We were never taught to be in our bodies and to feel and to understand and react to what it's telling us. So it's almost like you're helping them to retrain that mindset or train it from the beginning.
And I'll ask my clients to first we identify these thoughts
Mhm.
like I can't eat before this time, or I can't have that food, or this food's gonna make me gain weight, or whatever it is. Once we've identified those thoughts, then I ask them a very simple question that can blow somebody's mind, which is, who told you that? Who taught you that? Where did that come from? And a lot of times they'll say, well, now that you ask, I just kind of like made it up and started believing it. And now it's this self fulfilling prophecy. But it's
Right.
superstition. Like so much of it is superstition. It's not
Right.
factual.
Or Jane the health guru on TikTok.
Right. And I'll say too, like, we don't see the whole story with these people. We
Mhm.
see a little bite of a version of themselves that they play online, but we
Right.
don't know what's going on behind closed doors with those people. So we have to forget about that and look at just you, what is working for you and what is not
Mhm.
working for you.
Yeah.
Jane on TikTok could have a whole slew of health issues that we don't see.
100%. And we don't have to go into this now, but they could be on a GLP-1. They could be doing all of these
Mhm.
enhancing things, which there's nothing wrong with that if you wanna do that, but it's not being truthful. And I would love to hear your perspective as a whole on social media and how it's impacting women's health because you are, like, kinda the OG content creator,
Oh my
right?
gosh,
Like, you've
thank
been
you.
doing this since how old were you?
Since I was 14, I'm 30. I know I look like
Amazing.
I'm
Yeah, you
21,
do.
but
Yeah, so tell me.
yeah, I think it was like what I said earlier just now that people a lot of people are playing a version of themselves online and it's like cosplay and it's kind of dystopian to think about. It's like a Black Mirror episode and I think for younger generations as well, their reality is online.
Mhm.
Like, the online world is primary for younger
Right.
generations, and then the actual real physical world is secondary. And so, when somebody with a developing mind who's very impressionable sees somebody on TikTok who's cosplaying a certain version of themselves and they think that that's reality, well, now that person in real life, that 14-year-old girl, has completely unrealistic expectations of
Mhm.
what she should look like and how she should eat, and
Mhm.
doesn't see the other 23 hours, 50 minutes, and 30 seconds of that TikTok person's life. And it can completely warp their expectations and reality of what should be. I've been uploading a lot of stuff on Instagram lately about postpartum and pregnancy and women's bodies
Mhm.
because I'm hoping to, and I think I am successfully reaching an audience of women who have had the expectation that their bodies should look a certain way or they should bounce right back after pregnancy and helping them be more gentle and realistic about what women's bodies should look like and what is truly healthy.
Right. And it's so hard sometimes because there's so many voices or even doctors. Like you'll go to the OB and they're like, I've had several friends where they're like, "Oh, you're gaining too much weight." And they're like on the trajectory which is quote unquote normal, which is like 30 to 35 pounds. And I would say probably most of my friends, myself included, I was probably like 37 and 35 respectively with my pregnancies. Are past that. And, like, yes, there is an unhealthy amount, but like, I was weight training my entire pregnancy. Yes, like, I was definitely indulging more sometimes, but, I think that expectation, that conversation needs to shift. It's like, you're doing the best that you can. Yes, if you're letting yourself go in that way where you could be endangering yourself and your baby and having gestational diabetes and all of that, let's have some help with that. How would you talk to a pregnant person in that way to help them on their journey?
I'm so excited to be pregnant. I think I'm going to thrive because it is such an opportunity to have your female body show you what it's capable of, and it's capable of truly a miracle to grow another
Mhm,
life.
mhm,
And what a great opportunity to support it and nourish it and
mhm.
move it in a way that is gentle and supporting. This is an opportunity that men and males won't get to connect with their own body and have their body show them,
Yeah.
I this is a miracle that I'm able to do this. And I would look at it through that lens. What an opportunity that you have to see how incredible your body really is, that it can grow life.
Yeah, and it's so interesting. I mean, I was always like I said, into weightlifting, but not, I'll have to send you the gal that I follow, but she does, like, more low impact lifting because I have scoliosis from dancing and among other things, like, doing barbells does not feel good for my body, and so, um, all of the strength training and still, like, some cardio that I was doing, it's so empowering, and then you're pregnant and you're walking around and you just feel so strong in your body, and you're like, "Okay, I know that postpartum, I'm gonna feel a little bit better than I was if I didn't do this." And from a nutrition perspective, I would say with my daughter, I was very sick. I didn't have hyperemesis, but I was very sick the first trimester with her. So your eating habits just generally change because you can't tolerate certain things. Like I couldn't eat a lot of women can't eat like raw chicken, raw meat if a meat eater. I would literally have hummus on a siete tortilla, like the cassava root, and that's it. But like heaps of hummus. Then I would roll it up and then go on my merry way. So if someone is pregnant and not that that's bad, but it probably wasn't getting me all the nutrients that I need, how do you shift that conversation with clients when they're pregnant versus not in terms of, like, assessing their nuance?
Our body has wisdom beyond what we are able to comprehend, and
Mhm,
pregnancy is a great example of this, especially in the first trimester sickness for women. The reason why women are disgusted by certain foods, don't eat certain foods, there's a big aversion to meat, is because the body recognizes that certain foods are more susceptible to foodborne illness. So it wants to deter you from eating anything that could harm your baby, that could make you sick. So
mm,
this is why meats, people get grossed out by meats. Certain smells seem so much more pungent. You are you have a better ability to detect foods that aren't going to serve you. So, to remind women that are navigating nutrition during pregnancy that the body is working with you here and it's trying to protect you. And if you have an aversion to certain foods, I would roll with it, even if it's a healthy food that you have an aversion to. And this is why we have things like prenatal supplements to support you with the
mhm,
nutritional gaps that could be like a full-time job to make sure that you're getting during that time.
right. What about aversions to people? Can you help with that?
That definitely increases during pregnancy, I've heard.
And postpartum.
Yeah, it's just specifically the person that got you pregnant,
Right, right.
whose fault it
Exactly,
is.
exactly. So, in terms of, like, deficiencies in general, for you and for your clients, how often are you testing our levels and make or gut, for example, to make sure that we're sort of staying in line with what's meeting our needs?
Once a year, when you have your annual physical, you should ask for a typical lipid panel to look at all of your levels, and that will cover almost everything with the exception of vitamin B12 and vitamin D, which I think is crazy because these deficiencies are so common and so impactful on women's health. But when you go for your annual physical, get your blood test. And if you are able to, ask for B12 and D. The reason why I say if you're able to, of course, anybody can ask for it, but this may or may not be covered by insurance. So I would just get that information ahead of time to see if it works for you in a financial sense. But yeah, once a year,
Yeah. I would also say to our audience, like, I always say be the squeaky wheel, but push. I mean, if your doctor's not going to
100%.
get you B12 and vitamin D, yes, it can be more pricey to seek out a functional medicine practitioner or a naturopath. There's a lot of direct-to-consumer brands that are now doing blood work. I sometimes caution against it because then you have no one helping you, like, sift through everything specifically. But I would also say thyroid. Like, that is not something that
Yeah.
they're testing for in a big way, and getting your full thyroid panel as
Yes.
well as, the thyroid antibodies, because
Mhm.
we know as women, like, 90% of autoimmune as women, it's happening at all these different life stages. So that's why I was more curious too in terms of like supplementation with women. Are you seeing outside of B12 and vitamin D, is there anything else that you're seeing as a common thread in deficiencies with women?
Magnesium is something I am a huge fan of, and
Mhm,
magnesium
mhm,
deficiency tends to be more acute than chronic. So you're not gonna go for a blood test and nobody's gonna get a call that says like, "Hey, you have a chronic deficiency in magnesium." This is very rare. However, day to day, you're going to respond to whether or not you get enough magnesium in your daily diet.
mhm, mhm,
And magnesium for women especially is so beneficial with menstrual cramps because it helps calm down the body. You can either take it orally or you can apply it topically to the stomach to help with relieving those cramps. I love to take it at nighttime just to help relax the body physically into
mhm.
sleep.
Shifting gears to plant-based eating, because I know that that is what you sort of focus on. Are there any specific deficiencies with plant-based eating that you don't
Yes.
generally see with meat eaters?
Vitamin B12 and vitamin D. And the reason is because vitamin B12 is found in bacteria. So back in the day when we would drink from the water and we would just eat food that had dirt on it, we would naturally get vitamin D, no problem. And
Mhm,
animal products, meat has vitamin B12 in it because they eat the dirt and they get injected with B12. So most of the
mm,
B12 that you find in meat is artificially put there. But if you're not eating meat, then you're not gonna get it from your food, so
mhm,
supplementation is
mhm.
necessary. Vitamin D is another thing where if you're not eating animal products, your only source of vitamin D is the sun. Vitamin D is like a hormone, you kind of
Yeah,
create your body creates it, and if you're somebody like me who hides from the sun, you absolutely will be deficient in vitamin D. I was, so supplementation is necessary. Vitamin D deficiency is directly linked to chronic inflammation. So I think there are a
yeah,
lot of women who are inflamed that don't know they're low in vitamin D because it's not included in your annual blood panel.
yeah, and that you can overdose on that one because I was low in vitamin D postpartum and I had, a dropper. They were like, "Take a drop," and I took a dropper full.
Yeah, you told me that.
Yeah, so it was not good. I mean, I was fine, but they were like, "Ooh,
Yeah.
you went from 0 to 60 and we need to pull
Mhm.
back." I think it was someone was saying that, like, the, ER visits for vitamin overdoses is really high, like liver toxicity because of overuse. So there
Mm.
is, like that's why I was asking about testing. There is that ability for women and people in general to now just be on social media, and they're buying, like, any old supplement and putting all this stuff in their bodies without understanding how it's affecting them. If they need it, they're just spending thousands of dollars and peeing it out, or they could create this liver toxicity.
Yeah, I have 2 things to say to this. First, it's called a supplement, not a replacement. So a lot of people have very unhealthy lifestyles and start buying and using certain supplements and think that that will replace unhealthy habits.
Mhm.
That's not the way it works. A supplement is designed to fill in nutritional gaps when you're
Mhm.
giving maximum effort nutritionally. So I give
Yeah.
maximum effort nutritionally, but there are certain things that I just can't get. And I'll say too, like, go, if you were to eat spinach today, you would have to eat 10 times the amount of spinach that you would 100 years ago to get the same amount of vitamins, minerals, and nutrients. So we're just filling in gaps that we can't get from food. We're not
Yeah.
replacing unhealthy lifestyle habits.
So, a quick question for you going back to the pregnancy piece, because this is an interesting conversation I had with a girlfriend where she was vegetarian since I had known her, so like 15 years. And then when she was pregnant, she was like going with her intuition and she was like really craving meat, like lentils, like high iron foods weren't meeting that need for her. So she wasn't doing it because it wasn't like for the environment or the humane issue. It was just she kind of wanted to move plant-based. And so she started to eat meat again and she felt great. And so I guess a question for you is one, would you ever be open to that? And two, if you had a client coming to you, how would you sort of slowly reintroduce meat into their diet?
That reminds me of the dilemma that postpartum moms go through with newborns when they're having trouble breastfeeding and they
Mhm.
feel shame or guilt or whatever about using formula.
Yeah.
And there's the saying, like, the best baby is a fed baby. Whether it's formula, whether
Mhm.
it's breast, we
Mhm.
want the
Yeah.
baby to be fed. And that
Mhm.
reminds me of the dilemma here where it's like the best pregnant woman is a well-nourished, well-fed pregnant woman.
Yeah.
And if that means eating meat, then that's what we're gonna do. I
Right.
actually offer on my program, you can do what I call flexitarian, which still
Mhm.
has the inclusion of animal products. I'm not like a crazy stickler about that. I don't believe that the presence or absence of animal products is going to determine somebody's health. I believe
Mhm.
that somebody's health nutritionally is determined by the amount of whole, real
Mhm.
plant foods that they have in their diet.
Yeah.
So if 15% of your diet is meat, but 85% of your diet is whole plant foods, like you will be one of the healthiest people on the planet.
Yeah. So how did you get into plant-based eating?
I discovered plant-based eating when I was 19. I found it online, and I have the type of personality where, like, when I decide that I'm gonna do something,
Yeah.
that's that, and it's done, and, like, there's no turning back.
Yeah. And
So I
you're
was
an old soul.
19.
You're, like,
I
YouTubing.
am
You're, like,
definitely
doing
an
all
old
this shit
soul.
when you're a teenager. You're
Yes,
amazing.
I'm totally an old soul. So when I was 19, I was like, "I'm gonna be plant-based." I literally decided it one day, and it's, like, 11 years later, and I'm still plant-based.
Yeah.
It was, like, on a whim. Like, I wish I had a better story, but it was truly the most on a whim decision. The reason why I stuck with it, though, is because I convinced my parents to come to the dark side, and I literally got a new set of parents when they started eating this way. Like, my dad used to be obese, high blood pressure, my mom had high cholesterol, and now my parents, who are 65 and 67, are so active, so healthy, so vibrant. My dad lost 60 pounds eating this way. My mom lowered her cholesterol. That was what solidified it for me. Like, okay, this is definitely the right way to go. Look how healthy these people are in their old age. I want to be
Yeah.
like that.
So where did you see that? Like, who were your gurus or the people that you were hearing plant-based food from at the time?
I was training for a marathon, so the person that I saw was Rich Roll. He's an ultra
Oh, yeah.
marathoner who's
Okay.
plant-based,
Mhm.
and that was, like, my first exposure to plant-based, and funny enough, my running times improved so much when I
Mhm.
went plant-based, and I think it was just because I was eating so many dense sources of carbohydrates, which is a runner's fuel, that I
Yeah.
was, like, running so fast, the
Yeah.
fastest I'd ever run, and I was like, I'm this is where I'm meant to be." And I've
Yeah.
always loved carbs.
Yeah. Well, they call you, like, the potato queen, is that what
I
it is?
have been called that. Like, here's the funniest story, Kat. I studied abroad in London, and I shared a kitchen with, like, our flat was 15 of us sharing a kitchen, males and
Okay.
females, all from
Yeah.
my college. And before we knew each other's names, because there were so many people to learn, we would just, like, see each other in the kitchen, and before they knew my name, they called me the potato girl because I made so many potatoes every single day, so it's a badge of honor that I wear. Like, if when you think of me, you think of sweet potatoes, or when you see sweet potatoes, you think of me, my work here is done.
I love it. What's your favorite sweet potato?
Japanese sweet potato, 100%.
That's the yellow one? Purple and yellow?
Yes, exactly, so it's, like,
Okay.
reddish on the inside and, like, this
Okay.
creamy beige on the inside,
Yeah.
or
How do
red
you
on the
prepare
outside.
how do you prepare it?
I have so many different methods, but my method of late has been, and I'm gonna give a shout out to Whole Foods because Whole Foods, whatever variety they have, has been hitting recently. So you take the sweet potato, you bake it whole in the oven. And by the way, for anybody listening to this, on my Instagram, it is like embarrassing how many videos I have about sweet potatoes and the ways to cook them and all the different varieties. So if you're
And everyone
interested,
wants to know about it. I didn't know that there was so much interest in sweet potatoes, but
I
here we
know.
are. I love it.
Like, the limit does not exist with how many videos I will make about sweet potatoes. I'm the sweet potato cockroach, but I will put it, directly on the oven rack at 375 and cook
Okay.
it for, like, 2 hours at least. You won't overcook it. And then you put it in the fridge overnight, This is key. This is what
Mm.
forms resistant starch, which, like, yeah, it's great for your gut, but also it's, like, so sweet and just
Mhm.
makes it taste so good. But then the next day, I slice it up into coins and put it in the air fryer, and it's like, I've never done crack, but I imagine this is what it feels like.
That sounds amazing.
It's so good.
Resistant starch, is that I've also been seeing that with, like, if you're making sourdough and you freeze it, is that it, like, has less of an effect on your glucose spike when you eat it?
Very minimally, but
Okay,
yes. It's like that's what it became so popular for is people are like,
okay.
you absorb less calories. You absorb like 5 less calories." The reason why it's so beneficial is because it feeds your gut microbiome.
Mhm, mhm. And for our listeners who don't know what the gut microbiome is, what is that?
So, in our gut, we have 100 trillion little bacteria. And that we're outnumbered by the bacteria in our gut by 100 trillion. And these little bacteria, they eat what we eat. So whatever we eat, the bacteria is either going to be very happy with or very upset with. But also, they have their own circadian rhythms. They wake up, they sleep, they eat, they poop, they do everything that determines how our digestion runs, but also our mental state.
Mhm,
95% of the serotonin in our bodies is made in our gut, and serotonin is the mood stabilizing hormone. This is the gut brain connection. You can see it clear as day when you get nervous and you get butterflies in your stomach. There's a huge connection here. So, a healthy
mhm.
gut, yes, it's a healthy stomach, healthy digestion, flat stomach, but it's also a healthy mind.
Yeah. Well, I was talking to another guest about this as well with postpartum because a lot of mood disorders, postpartum depression, anxiety can be confused with nutrient deficiencies.
Mhm.
So it's really important to get everything checked as deep as you can with the right sort of person overseeing everything that can help. Um, because again, so much of your mood is housed in your gut. Um, Speaking of the gut brain connection and plant based eating, so Dr. Gundry, who I love for the gut brain connection. So I'd love your perspective on this.
I heard something about pharmaceuticals that if something doesn't have a side effect, it doesn't have an effect. And
Hmm.
I kind of
Hmm.
apply this to food as well,
Yeah.
that there's going to be drawbacks of foods that we eat, but
Yeah.
I can almost guarantee all of the benefits are going to outweigh this.
Hmm.
And yes, food does have oxalates, but it has so many vitamins, minerals, and nutrients that are going to outweigh that. And for somebody that doesn't have a sensitivity, it's not going to be a problem.
Right.
And then with the lectins, we cook off most of the lectins when the
Right.
food is cooked. So, like, that's why we don't eat raw lentils. That's why we don't eat raw beans.
Hmm.
And this individual that you're speaking of, I haven't seen much of him, but I have seen a video where he said that grapes are the equivalent or worse than M&Ms, which I like don't even get me started on. But I think that a lot of this too is wrapped up in what crazy ridiculous thing can I say so that people listen? And I personally wouldn't be able to sleep at night if I was telling people, like, raspberries are bad for you, spinach is bad for you because of the oxalates, just so that people would listen to what I have to say. It
Yeah.
works for some people have the personality for it, like, I gotta be honest, and it breaks my heart, especially because people who are listening to this podcast are taking time out of their day to purposefully put in the effort to learn how to be healthy.
Hmm.
And you're gonna tell that person that raspberries are bad and spinach is bad?
Yeah.
It's, like, heartbreaking.
Right. I mean, that's such a great point about it's the inflammatory comments. And I was working with Emily Fender, who's a women's health researcher, for our lunch, and she studies social media and the harm that it can cause for women's health. And in one of the studies she was doing, it was actually clinicians that were spreading the most misinformation, whether that is that they actually didn't know the answer or they were spreading a research study that was unfounded or not peer reviewed for views and likes. And it's just so alarming to me that that is the state that we're in. And so, yes, some of these voices, yes, they may have strong opinions about certain things. And then now they're trying to piggyback on that with other thoughts. And so, my guess is like the spinach thing is because of pesticides or something, but everything has two sides of the street. You can argue both sides of things.
Think about if you're
Um,
scrolling Instagram and you see
right,
broccoli is good for you. No, duh, I'm gonna scroll right past that. I already know
right,
that. If I'm scrolling and I see broccoli
right,
is bad for you, it's like, "What?" It's a
right,
contradiction that stops the scroll, and you're
right.
exactly right that the spreading of misinformation is done so that people stop the scroll and get more views and people arguing in the comments, and I hate that that is the case, and so I try to
Mhm.
be refreshing and just completely honest on my page.
Right. Um, Back to sort of like spinach and just nutrients for a moment. So we know that our soil is less nutritious, right? So our fruits and veggies that are coming to us have less nutrients than they did once in the past. If that's because we're growing the same crops year over year, or because of, some of the pesticides we're using, what have you. Um, does that mean we eat more of the vegetables, like, and then supplement? How do you find, I know you were saying something about spinach earlier, having more nutrition than
Yeah.
previous, but I'd love to just dive in there.
I used to be against green drinks because I thought that people used them like they'd go out, drink, eat junk and be like, "But I have my green juice in the morning." They thought it would just like undo everything, and I didn't want to be a part of that rhetoric.
Yeah.
And so I was opposed to them, and I consider green juices to be like varsity nutrition, where you're already eating so many fruits and vegetables, and then the green juice is there to fill in the gaps because the soil is depleted and you're not gonna get everything through just the food itself. So green juices are great, like powdered, like I love Live It Up, for example, because
Okay.
they hyper concentrate the amount of nutrition that you're getting in such a small package. But remember, these are supplements, not replacements, but I do drink one every morning.
Yeah, I love that, thinking about a green juice as an also a supplement. It's not a
Mhm.
replacement for a meal, like, that is not a meal.
100%. People aren't like, I drink my green juice so I don't have to eat my veggies." No, you have to do
Yeah.
both.
What's your thought on celery juice?
I've seen incredible results from people that
Mhm,
use celery juice specifically for skin issues.
mhm,
I'm not
mhm,
exactly sure why that is. I haven't looked into the science behind why it has such a benefit to
mhm.
skin issues like eczema and acne, but I have seen people have incredible results with that. And I would say it's the same thing here where it's like it's not going to replace having a healthy lifestyle, but
Yeah,
it's varsity nutrition. It'll take you from an A to an A plus.
yeah. I'm a high achiever, and so I like that.
Yeah,
I
me
like to
too.
think of
And
it
then I
as
would
a
think like
A plus.
the prerequisite to celery juice is you have to be eating vegetables daily.
Right, going back to the previous of, like, my current eating habits, I'm on, like, a C level, and so I need to get to the A to then, like, get this stuff up. Like, you can't cheat your way to optimal health. Um, what so a question about your parents and when they went on a plant-based diet and saw all these results. How much of it do you think is the plant-based diet, and how much of it do you think is just getting them on a routine where they feel good and so they sort of stay the course?
They've always been routined people. We weren't
Yeah,
egregious eaters growing up, like,
yeah.
we just were on a standard American diet. I grew up in
Mhm,
such a
mhm,
normal
mhm.
household when it comes to, like, food and health
Yeah,
and all of that, and, like, my mom cooked dinner every night. We either had ziti or we had chicken, and that was
yeah,
every single night of my life. The health ailments that they were dealing with, my dad being obesity and high blood pressure and my mom's being cholesterol, are
yeah.
the science behind a plant-based diet being so effective in addressing those is so solid that
Mhm.
I truly believe that being plant-based is the way that they have to go for their health issues. And if they
Yeah.
were to reincorporate animal products, my dad's blood pressure would surely go up and my mom's cholesterol would surely go up.
So interesting. And you always hear for, like, when someone is reactive and they have a disease or they have cancer, for example, then you hear them sort of being like, "Oh gosh, I'm gonna try this plant-based effort," or "I'm gonna do this." And now with the rise of colon cancer in young people,
Mm.
I feel like, at least for myself, like, we eat grass-fed, grass-finished beef, but I'm giving my kids, for school, they have Chomps bars and all of this stuff, like, as much whole foods as we can get, but there's a lot of this, like, more processed. I wouldn't say ultra processed because it's not. And it does worry me because I'm like, we don't really know. the individual effects of that.
Yeah.
Um, so it's so fascinating to me to do that, to look at the plant-based, efforts. What do you think is the most unexpected benefit of a plant-based diet?
It's a good question. I would say for me, the mental clarity and the level-headed feeling,
Mhm,
especially around food.
mhm.
Thanksgiving is a great example of me remembering what it's like to have food play on dopamine receptors. On Thanksgiving, I
Yeah,
had some more, like, processed, indulgent foods, which I very rarely have, and while I was eating it, I could feel it pulling on my dopamine receptors, like, I'm responding to this food in a way that is more emotional than it is physical, and I don't like that. I want food to be my fuel. I don't wanna have any sort of pleasure centers be lit up by it. I wanna have a very relaxed, even-keeled relationship with food, and I do credit my even-keeled, relaxed, not obsessive relationship with food to the fact that I'm eating foods that aren't hyperstimulating and that have regulated my brain's reward center.
yeah. So if you were to describe something that is a pleasurable eating experience for you, if you're watching a movie and you're like, "Oh gosh," typically I'll have a bowl of popcorn with my kids, and I'll
Yeah.
make it from scratch, and we'll do coconut oil and sea salt and all that stuff. So that to me is like, okay, an indulgence. What would be your indulgence? Is it a sweet potato?
Every time I eat a sweet potato, I do feel that, but
Yeah.
I'm very selective about making sure I don't fry my brain's dopamine receptors, that I don't wanna overload the pleasure. So if I'm watching the movie, I wanna be fully focused on the movie and not splitting, like, for me, if I had the popcorn there, the popcorn wouldn't taste as good and the movie wouldn't be as good because my brain is focusing on splitting those 2 things. When I'm watching the movie, I want it to be the case that the movie could give me as much intrigue and pleasure and joy
Mhm.
as something artificial could. So I'm very selective about that and making sure that I have a dopamine menu that, allows me to focus on one thing at a time and doesn't overload my dopamine receptors.
Yeah. That's interesting, and that's another point of, like, why going back to your point of sitting down and having a meal so that you, A, chew slowly, can digest your food, are actually enjoying it, um, but also, like, not confusing pleasure receptors. So that leads me to 2 questions. 1, what movie have you watched recently that you were, like, dialed into? And 2, do you not eat when you go to the movie theater?
I literally have never even seen Harry Potter, like, I'm not a movie watcher.
Okay, okay.
So I'm not a movie that's, like I haven't seen
Documentary?
I am just not a movie girl.
Okay, alright.
Um, I do love, like, the Kardashians. I'm more of a
Okay,
show
that's great.
girl or I
Yeah,
read.
yeah.
But right now, lately, I've been watching, The Kardashians, new season, of course, and then Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, and I have been, like, locked in. Like, you cannot have
Okay,
any distractions when you watch
okay.
these shows.
Do your fiancé get him out of the room, or does he watch with you?
No, so we strictly watch football together. I have watched more football in my life than I would have
Oh,
ever imagined, so these are
yeah.
shows that I will watch, like, on the treadmill.
Okay, good for you.
Yeah.
That's actually where I watch I listen to a lot of podcasts while I'm working out, but I also exclusively watch Love Island on the treadmill.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a popular one. I haven't watched
And the
it, but it's a popular one.
oh my god, and there's 50 episodes, so you really, like
Yeah, you gotta
you
pay
might pass
attention.
away before you get to the end, but,
Mhm.
um, 2 last questions, and we can go into some final thoughts. 1, just quick foods for hormone health that is like a no harm, no foul that anyone can try to incorporate into their diet.
So easy, 1 tablespoon of ground flaxseed every day, put it into your
Okay.
grains, either in your oatmeal or, like, in rice or in quinoa, it'll get lost in there. So beneficial for regulating female hormones.
What would you say to someone? Because I always like to bring in, like, misinformation that I'm seeing out there. Someone that is saying, "Do not eat flax, it's so estrogenic," and in a world where we're being inundated with xenoestrogens in our products, and people say the same thing about soy. What would you say to that?
That is old school thinking. So in
Okay.
1995, you would have been correct. In
Yeah.
2025, you're not correct anymore because soy actually acts on alpha and beta receptors when it comes
Yeah.
to estrogen to
Okay.
either if you have too much estrogen, it's going to help you excrete it. And if you
Mhm.
don't have enough, it's going to act as an estrogen. It's going to mimic it to help improve those levels. So the new science just shows that that's incorrect thinking that used to seem right.
Yeah. And is that why for a period of time people were saying that soy could cause breast cancer?
That's exactly why.
Yeah.
Yes, because it
Okay.
acts on those receptors, and then
Yeah.
we realized, "Oh, actually, there's 2 receptors that we need to look at here," and the countries that consume the most soy have the lowest incidences of breast cancer.
Yeah. Such a great thing to keep in mind as we're taking in research, always getting multiple different points of view on things. I love flax. I do like flax, hemp seed, and chia seeds in my smoothie, or I do like a seed cereal in the winter to have warming foods.
Mhm.
Um, but I love that. I love the flax tip. Um, Last thing about plants is like, how do you use plants as medicine? Doesn't have to be like, you know, ayahuasca, but like, what are things that you're leaning into?
The body wants to be healthy. Something Dr. Neil Barnard says is when you get a cut and you put a Band-Aid on, and a few days later you take off the Band-Aid and the cut is gone, what has your body just proven to you? That it can heal and it wants to be healthy. And when I think of eating plants and eating whole foods, I think of it like bringing your body back to the way that it was designed to be and giving it the fuel that it was designed to have so it can get back to being healthy because so many of the health ailments that people deal with are because we live in an environment that is unnatural and it is not aligned with our natural history. And we're dealing with disease that probably wouldn't have existed however many years ago.
Right.
So by giving your body whole, real food, you're just getting it back to its default, which is healthy. It wants to be healthy.
Yeah. My mind is going to do you watch Alone? Is that one of your treadmill shows?
No, I've never even heard of it.
Okay.
I live on
It
like your
might be too
nearest
far.
rock is what I live under. I truly live under a rock.
Okay. Well, we'll get you out. We'll get you out of that. We'll go out for a tea and a coffee.
Yeah.
But Alone is it's too slow for the treadmill unless you're walking, but it's, um, basically you see let's say it's in Canada, there's like 6 to 8 people that are just plopped in these different areas, and they have to make their own shelter, they have to
Interesting.
forage and kill for their own food, all of this, but it's my husband and I watch it all the time, and we find it fascinating, and you're, like,
Yeah.
cheering people on. Obviously, they're going through the ups and downs of it, but it really, like, shows you, someone like, the importance of nutrition from the earth, from berries,
Yeah.
from all these things, and, like, things that you wouldn't necessarily think of. So anyway, I'm a huge proponent of plant medicine, mushrooms, like anything that can support us in a great way. And so I would say to our listeners, like, definitely work with, anyone, if it's an acupuncturist, if it's a natural medicine provider, and just ask the questions because there's so many complementary efforts that can support us just in our general health.
100%.
So 2 final thoughts. 1, is there anything that you're seeing as a social media expert? Is there anything out there that's genuinely harming women right now?
The animal-based meat-only diet.
Okay.
Hello,
And that's
colon cancer. It has no fiber where people just eat animal products.
Mhm,
This
mhm.
is it's downright dangerous,
Yeah,
and it's a fad that I hope passes very quickly. But any extreme like this, ladies, you have to be wary of extremes. If it seems extreme, it's a bad idea. We wanna
yeah,
get back to balance, and I despise this meat-only animal diet because it has no fiber, and fiber is a broom for the colon, and it's just like a breeding ground for colon cancer.
yeah. For anyone that would think that plant medicine is, a limited diet, how would you say to them, "Hey, it's actually really inclusive and expansive?"
I would say to that person that we don't have to do plants only, but we need to
Mhm.
incorporate a ton of plants. If you still
Yeah,
wanna have eggs and fish and meat, fine, but I still want 85% of your diet to be real, whole, natural food from the earth.
yeah. I was at a client meeting once, and I was explaining about my girlfriend who is was at the time a pescatarian. And one woman at the lunch chimes in and she was like, "Oh, I didn't know Episcopalians only ate fish."
My gosh.
Sweet Jesus.
My gosh. Bless her heart.
Um, that's great. Yeah, I mean, as with most things, it's not a one size fits approach, and you can alter what you're doing across your lifespan. It doesn't have to be it's lifestyle based, and I think that's what you're doing so well is you're communicating to women in a very clear manner of like, "Hey, these are basics," and like through your programs you can expand on it.
Exactly.
Final question about health. Looking into the future, is there one nutrition principle that maybe people are kind of confused on right now, or maybe you're tapping into that's going to be mainstream in 10 years?
I have been taking NAD plus,
Okay.
and I have seen this start to come up, and I
Hmm.
think more and more people are going to start to utilize it. So I do it through a nasal spray. NAD plus is what
Interesting.
gives us energy
Hmm.
and gives our cells energy. At age 20 is when it starts to decline, and by age 40 to 50, you have 50% of the NAD plus that you had when you were 20. This is why we just, like, have less energy as we get older. So I've started using that as a nasal spray, and I'm liking it, and I think it's gonna become much more popular.
Interesting. So, why a nasal spray versus like intravenous?
I don't like needles,
Yeah. Okay.
and I don't wanna have to go make an appointment somewhere, so it's just so like, I have it in the fridge. It's just so easy to use.
The nasal sprays are so interesting to me too. Like, I don't know if you've seen, they now have epinephrine as a spray.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
So to your point about the needles, like
Yeah.
women, if you're interested, like look into that if you have any, allergies. Um, there's also a brand called Aramore who we've worked with. It's an NAD face cream and eye cream. So we'll have to connect on that because it's amazing. Everyone
Yeah.
raves about the eye cream.
Cool.
Cool. So final questions. What is one wellness trend that you found on social media that you're leaning into?
Magnesium.
Okay.
I saw people start to take magnesium and looked into it myself, started using it myself, and I'm in love.
Mhm. Okay. Favorite personal care product.
My favorite personal care product, I would consider my oven to be a personal care product because it's where
Okay,
I
I
bake
love
my
that.
sweet
We've never got
potatoes.
that. Okay.
Yeah, that's my answer. Like,
Cool. Okay,
when the
okay.
electricity goes out, I short circuit. I cannot live without my oven for my Japanese sweet
We need
potatoes.
to we need to find you a backup. We'll do that. I wonder, maybe this is silly, but I'm wondering, you have a range? Is there a way that you could ever take the sweet potato and put it in, like, a waffle maker or something? Like, could you
Probably probably not.
we're gonna troubleshoot this.
I also would say to my gua sha, I love my gua
Mm,
sha. I have seen a
okay.
difference in my face shape from using it.
Do you have a specific brand that you like or a specific type of stone?
No, I got it on
No.
Amazon.
Okay, great. Love it. We'll link it.
Yeah.
Last thing you Googled or asked chat?
See, I'm gonna do the last thing I asked chat. Oh my gosh. So the other day, my fiance and I were watching football, surprise, and we live in the 10th story of our apartment. We have our corner unit, so we have these huge windows, and there are thousands of birds. I've never seen anything like it. Thousands of birds flying by like a bad omen, and we were like,
Oh, no.
"What is happening?" So I asked chat what was going on. Like, why out of nowhere are all of these birds flying by our apartment, like thousands of birds. And it told me it was due to a perceived change in the weather pattern. And then all
Okay.
of a sudden it like the sky zoomed up and it started raining. And I was like, those birds were right.
Well, that's so interesting.
Yeah.
My guess was gonna be because there's a supermoon tomorrow, like the last
Oh,
one in for, like,
interesting.
20 years or something. My son is obsessed with, like, the blood
Oh, I love
moon,
that.
supermoons, so we're
Oh my
like
gosh, what a cool thing to be obsessed
we're
with.
very dialed into it, so if you ever need help in that arena, you just
Well,
let
yeah,
me
no,
know.
I love that stuff because that's related to women's hormones too. Like there's gonna be a
Yeah.
lot of babies born tomorrow. Yeah.
Well, I'm looking for, someone to deep dive with me on that, so let me
Oh,
know if you have
cool.
anyone.
Yeah.
And last but not least, a book, a podcast, or a resource that you would recommend for women for their health.
I would recommend the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, PCRM. They have so
Mhm.
much great information, a lot of free information, a great podcast. They're a great organization.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Before we go, where can people connect with you, learn more on your YouTube, socials, supplements, all of the
Yeah.
things?
I'm Healthy Emmie everywhere. So healthy and then Emmie is Emmie. You
Okay.
can follow me on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and all my links will be there.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. This was such
My
a great
pleasure.
chat. I love going through everything with you, and there's so many wonderful takeaways for women. So, everyone, make sure to subscribe to Off With Your Coat wherever you listen to podcasts. Make sure you rate, review, and come back for more. Thank you, guys.